the session drummer of the rock and pop era from the mid-1960s forward through the present day. Jim Keltner was swirled into the world at Tulsa's Hillcrest Hospital to Jack and Pat Keltner, April 27, 1942. The morning after, a major tornado hit Pryor, Oklahoma, causing a strain on the hospital staff, which forced his parents to hurry up with his name. He attended John Burroughs Elementary School and then Roosevelt Junior High School in Tulsa, where he was an orchestra member as a result of learning the basics of reading drum music from Charlie Westgate, a marching band instructor and a drummer in the Akdar Shrine Drum Corps, along with Keltner's father. Jim's uncle, Willie Smokey Mendoza, played bass with Johnny Lee Wills at Kane's Academy when the dance hall had a rowdy reputation because of so many fights occurring there. Keltner later learned from his parents the family relocated to Pasadena, California, in part to get away from the Kanes, where his father and mother, with her sisters, would go frequently because Uncle Smokey was playing there. As a result of the move to California, he spent all of his teen years and attended high school in Pasadena, where he fell in love with jazz. Attended Pasadena City College, took a semester of piano, and played in his first bands. After marrying his wife Cynthia right out of high school, Jim worked many types of gigs in the Pasadena area to support his family of 3 children, Eric, Jennifer, and Eli. Keltner landed a job with Gary Lewis and the Playboys in 1965, which led to the recording session for the top 5 singles She's Just My Style, produced by Leon Russell, which began a career-long relationship with Russell and, by extension, many other players commonly associated with Tulsa.
Gary Lewis discovered him. I was making Gary Lewis records, and Gary said, I got this drummer, he's a great drummer, I want to use him on his records. And so he brought Keltner in, and Keltner had never played on a record, and he'd never played any rock and roll. He was a jazz player. So I was helping him, I was telling him some parts of doogie 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 doogie. And he said, you want me to play doogie 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 doogie? Yeah, that's it. He was appalled because he's a reactionary drummer. For all those that are considering Keltner for their record, I would suggest respectfully that they finish their record with somebody else and then put Keltner on last, because he reacts to everything that's going on in the music. After we played the first record session with Gary Lewis, he took me to his house. He said, well, I want to play you my favorite number now. And I said, okay, great. He played me this guy, and I listened to it a little bit. And I said, that guy's not a drummer, he's a sound effects man. Because there was no beat, it was all beautiful sound effects. And Keltner's really good at that stuff, too.
By the early 21st century, Keltner had recorded or performed with a staggering list of popular music icons, musicians, singers, and songwriters. Keltner is known for laying down sturdy and steady rock beats, funky R&B grooves, complicated polyrhythms associated with Latin or African music, and unobtrusive percussive stability to any style of pop music. Professional drummers discuss Keltner in the most reverent terms, placing him in the context of significant big band-era jazz drummers Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa, as well as comparable and distinctive technique along the lines of the modern jazz wizard Elvin Jones. With regard to rock music, Keltner is simply considered the absolute best session percussionist one can hope to have on their project, easily placed in the frontline company of rock drummers known for the subtleties and accents of a jazz drummer, and precise timekeeping with strategic fills.
Does I just sit here and watch the river flow?
Some of Keltner's work in rock music is part of the genre's standard canon. Bob Dylan's Knockin' on Heaven's Door and Watchin' the River Flow, John Lennon's Imagine LP, Steely Dan's Asia album, Gary Wright's Dreamweaver, Ringo Starr's Photograph, and George Harrison's Give Me Love. Just a partial list of additional musical artists with whom Keltner has recorded and or performed looks like the table of contents for a who's who of popular and world music for the second half of the 20th century. Roy Orbison, George Harrison, Jerry Garcia, Eric Clapton, Joe Cocker, Hoyt Axton, Barbra Streisand, the Rolling Stones, and many of the individual members' solo projects, Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, Elvis Costello, the Bee Gees, Jackson Browne, Jesse Ed Davis, Ry Cooder, Randy Newman, Los Lobos, Pink Floyd, Warren Zevon, Tom Petty, Willie Nelson, Lucinda Williams, Sheryl Crow, Bill Frisell, Mavis Staples, B.B. King, John Lee Hooker, J.J. Cale, Albert King, Dolly Parton, Arlo Guthrie, Joe Walsh, John Hyatt, Flaco Jimenez, Leo Kottke, Rod Stewart, Yoko Ono, Ali Farka Toure, Earl Scruggs, Roberta Flack, Harry Nilsson, the Tractors, Freddie King, Leonard Cohen, Albert Collins, Neil Diamond, Roy Clark, Keith Moon, Jerry Lee Lewis, the Traveling Wilburys, T-Bone Burnett, and that is not even close to the whole list. In addition to thousands of recording sessions for multiple popular music artists, Keltner has also recorded for several film soundtracks. Notably the drums for Randy Newman songs heard in the popular animated Pixar features to include all 3 Toy Story movies, as well as in other feature films such as Cars, Bugs, The Princess and the Frog, Meet the Fockers, and Charlie Wilson's War. Jim's also heard on the top 10 hit Almost Paradise from the Footloose soundtrack. Recent projects include the 2009 T-Bone Burnett project, The True False Identity, Eric Clapton's 2010 self-titled album, 2 #1 albums by Michael Bublé, John Mayer's Born and Raised, Diana Krall's 2014 release Wallflower, and Queen Latifah's 2014 HBO biopic of Bessie Smith. Along with his massive session credits, Keltner also produced Jerry Lee Lewis's 2010 album Mean Old Man and its follow-up in 2014, Rock and Roll Time. While Jim Keltner did not emerge from the late 1950s and early 1960s Tulsa music scene that produced many of his peers from Oklahoma with whom he eventually worked, such as his longtime playing cohort and friend Carl Radel, Keltner did at least learn the basics of learning to read music in Tulsa as a 7th grader, which indicates the all-world drummer's career caught fire first in Oklahoma before it spread throughout some of popular music's most recognized performances from 1965 through the present day. With not only a little irony or poetic justice, depending on one's perspective, in 2014, Jim Keltner was inducted into the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame in a Tulsa ceremony at the Cain's Ballroom, nearly 60 years after his parents and aunts danced away the nights there. Jim says they would all be proud of him, but at the same time, they would have gotten a big laugh out of the ceremony's location.